squeaky. This is the wrong chair.
I think you should change the chair.
I really think I should.
Would you like this one?
No, that one's fine.
Right.
I think, thank you. These squeak a lot less, for they're far better made, for they are Danish. Request video. The request was something along the lines of, but how do you just start? Yeah, have an idea, and what do you do? How do you turn it into perfume? So I thought I'd do a quick demo.
That's great.
I say quick.
We have time.
Well, yes.
To demonstrate.
I'm going to switch the machine on.
Rule number 1: switch your machine on.
Switch machine on.
That's how you start.
And what I have here is a balance. This one comes from Ohaus. This is an Ohaus Scout, which doesn't get that upset if you move it around a bit. They're very delicate. You're blowing it. I can make it go to 2 grams just by blowing on it.
The 2 gram blow.
I'm not just going to sit here and blow at the machine because I've discovered how much fun it is, but I won't. But
all I want to do now is have a contest.
I was thinking you'd be better. Come on.
I don't know. You've got with asthma.
How hard can you blow?
You got up to 27 grams worth of... Alright, now it's a competition. Alright, so...
27 grams.
I'm a baritone sax player of South Tyneside Schools Orchestra. I couldn't see.
I think you got to 17.
I think 17. Okay.
It's okay. We'll try again next week.
Hours of endless fun with your balance that you didn't know you could have. But one of my students recently bought a nice Ohaus balance. She'd set it up in her new place, and she said it had gone horribly wrong. Did I tell you about this one? It was giving all kind of wrong. She couldn't get it to steady. She put something on it, and I said to her, "Do you have a ceiling fan?" And she said, "Yes."
Wow, interesting.
Yeah. So, because that's the way my mind works. I pictured her in her new room, and I've never been there. It's in America, and I've been to America, not to her house. And I was just thinking, what could make that happen? She had a ceiling fan. So she said, hang on a moment. She's on the Zoom. She went, turned it off, came back and went, it's fine.
Wow.
So, yeah, so do not position it below a ceiling fan or anybody who breathes powerfully.
Yeah.
You can get a guard that you can put around it. But the thing is that we can't actually measure usually so delicately that it makes any difference. But anyway, so this is quite expensive. You can get the ones off your eBay for like £9 or something.
Oh, good. What's that, 2 decimal places or something?
Yeah, 2 decimal places. And you know, as I keep saying, you can get it to 3 decimal places, but the point with that is you can't recreate what you've done, because the pipette will only measure to like 0.03 anyway. So there's not much point wasting your time on something that, and it's also then very expensive. So I'm going to do a dilution. I don't always work at dilutions because I tend to have big quantities of materials, and you don't have to, but since the material, the finished fragrance is going to be at a dilution, well, you might as well. Plus, that's what Jean-Claude Eleanor does, and if it's good enough for Jean-Claude, it's good enough for us. So press tab, goes back to 0. I have some nice patchouli light here. I just got a sample from Ultra International. You going to smell the cap? Because you know how it's impossible not to sniff them.
Oh, wow.
Nice. It is good, isn't it? Yeah.
Really good.
So that's the place we went to where I thought we were going to go to a farm, and I wore my best walking shoes, and it turns out it was an It's a hydroponics sort of a farm.
And so this is their patchouli that they grow
This is
there?
their patchouli, like, no, this is one that they grow actually in, does it say? I think in India.
Wow, that's really, really nice.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Mm.
Okay, so another 5 seconds. Let's see if I can do this in 5.
4,
1.
3, 2.
They're not here. Alex took them downstairs. I was going to put the gloves on to do best practice, and I've failed. Imagine I'm putting on purple gloves and my hands now appear purple. But if you're working with 100% strength materials, you really ought to be wearing your gloves. But patchouli isn't one of those that is that irritating for the skin, so
Yeah.
I'm just going to be very careful. This is actually a 30 milliliter bottle, which means that I will be able to fit in, I could fit in 30 mils of patchouli, but I could only fit in about 24
Grams.
well, 24 grams of ethanol. Yeah, you can fit in 30 mils of anything. I could fit in 30 grams of patchouli. I can't fit in 30 grams of ethanol because it doesn't weigh very much. So, to make a 10% dilution...
Can we start calling 27 grams as a unit an after breath?
An after breath, yes. It doesn't quite take an after breath. Yes. We've had more requests for you to do your ASMR after you chewed 3 grapes loudly.
Wow.
You are now known as ASMR.
Great.
Yes.
I like that.
So what I'm going to do this at 10%. So I will put in 2.4 grams of patchouli. We're going to make, following on from last week, a bit of a musk fragrance. This is the fascinating bit, isn't it?
So we're dilating to 10%.
Yes.
We're using weight, not volume.
We always use weight because weight does not vary according to temperature. Volume does.
There we go.
Yes.
So how many grams have you put in?
We've actually got 2.41 because each drop...
It's really good.
Yes, it's really good. Each drop is... I'm looking for somewhere to put this. I'll put it on that here. So it doesn't go on the table. Yeah, each drop of this with this pipette, because they're all different, it's about 0.3 grams. So we ended up with 2.41. So for that reason, I'm going to top this up to 24.1 grams with ethanol, which will mean that it's a 10% dilution. So I don't have to press tear and multiply or divide or anything. I'll just
Keep
make
going.
it up to, I'll just be careful, pay attention. It's great noise, isn't it?
It's a great noise.
Squirt, another
Do it
squirt.
really close to the camera for some ASMR. Of course, here, you know, it's important to. I mean, it took me a while to learn how to do percentages properly.
Yes.
That's probably the first place to start. Is learn how to do percentages.
Well, one
You
of
don't
the
already know.
reasons that it's nice to do things at 10% strength is that it makes it really quite easy because you just move the decimal point along a little bit at 10%.
Yeah.
So, well, just one space. So 24.1 grams in total, but 2.41 grams is 10% of 24.1. It doesn't matter how much you end up with, as long as one part of it out of 10 is the patchouli, then it's at 10%. I
Yeah.
don't think I explained that particularly well there.
No, you did.
But did I? I've put the lid on and I'm going to write the label. So that is patchouli light, and I'm going to put UI for Ultra International. That's where it came from, because I've got a couple of different patchoulis and I want to make sure I've got the right one. I'm going to put 10%. I don't write in ethanol because everything I do is in ethanol. I only write in something else if it's something else.
Such as DPG.
Such as DPG, which stands for?
Di.
Yep.
Phenyl.
Actually, no.
Di. High. DPG. Di.
Yes.
Prophylactic.
Propylene.
Dipropylene glycol.
Yes.
Is it?
Yes.
Great.
Yes, it is. Well done. But yeah, it's a solvent. It's not a solvent. Oh, by the way, today we shall be making...
It's one of the few solvents that's okay to sniff.
Probably not, yeah. Yeah, I think they put vape stuff in DPG. I think people actually inhale it. I'm not sure it's a good idea, but they do.
What is that? That's so you put your nicotine into
When
DPG.
people put their nicotine and their flavours into...
And the carrier is DPG, is it?
I do believe so.
Wow, that must be so bad for
Somebody asked
you.
me to make some once and make lots of money, and I just said no.
No.
Rather be poor and not find out in 20 years later that I'd killed people.
Yeah. Yeah.
It looks a little bit like the eyeballs of people who've had a good night out, isn't it?
Bring it closer to yourself.
Me,
to yourself,
closer to me.
It does look a bit like that, yeah. If I just darken that, you can see it better, I think. Yeah.
Okay. And this, for those who have no clue why I would be showing such a thing, is because I'm making a dark centre of this fragrance. So it's got a dark sun surrounded by musks, and I've chosen Belvio, and I decided that would be pink. It's quite intense. And then Romandolide to wrap the whole lot
That's
in.
what we're making today.
That's what we're making today.
Oh,
so,
this is good news. That sounds
yeah.
lovely.
Good. So following on from what we did last week, I thought we'd have a go at that. So we've done a patchouli light dilution, which, I mean, you know, we've got dilutions here, but I wanted to show how we start. I've also got some Cistus SEV. And again, the sniff. But it's sniffing the cap is fine. What we're not supposed to do is sniff directly from the bottle.
Because if you get your nose too close, you'll snort it all up your nose.
Well, and also some of these things are actually hazardous if you get them inside your lungs. I mean, this is okay. It's... over here, smell that. There's a tiny little bit on the end of that strip, and yet... the perfect noise to accompany it, I feel.
Wow.
I'm of course using a different pipette for this, so you don't just go lobbing the same one in.
This
yeah. Are you
is
happy?
labdanum.
Well, it's very, very, very close because it's from the same tree. It's from the rock rose, Cistus ladanifera.
Oh yeah, you already said what it was.
I said a Cistus SEV.
Yeah.
This is the thing. This is the one where I asked Albert Vier. I asked him to find out what does SEV stand for. Nobody remembers, but they think probably originally it came from Seville, so it wasn't an abbreviation. It doesn't stand for, you know,
super extra.
Essence,
yeah.
you know, VA or whatever. It probably is just somebody wrote it's come from Seville and didn't fit on the invoice. So we could go in another. Maybe we'll do a 5%.
I think this is crying out for 5% dilution.
I think you're probably right. It is very intense.
Yeah.
It is. I mean, that's a tiny little bit that you've got on the end of the stick.
It's really nice.
It's very smoky, this one, isn't it? It's quite...
I feel like I want to treat a wooden floor with it in a National Trust property.
I think you probably ought to be allowed to do that. In fact, they ought to invite you.
Yeah.
So just to go through the maths before we get started, again, we're going to put 24 grams in this because it will fit. We could put less, there's no point, unless it's short of ethanol. So 24 grams, 5% of 24 grams is 24 multiplied by 0.05 or...
1.2.
It's 1.2.
Sorry, yes, the maths would be multiply 24 by 0.5.
Yeah, because when 10% is easy because that's 1 out of 10. So
No, 0.05.
0.05. Sorry. Yes. Multiply by 0.6. Thank you. You're very good at this now. Yeah. So you'd multiply by 0.1 if you wanted 10% because that it gives you 1 part out of 10. So it'd be half of that.
Yeah.
So you can work out your 10% and then take half of it if you want to.
You know what I've always done to work out percentages?
What you've always done.
Because I understand that now, but it seems quite counterintuitive to work out a percentage by multiplying.
Yeah.
So what I always used to do was divide my overall amount by 100 to work out 1%, and then just times it by the amount of percentage.
That is a good idea. And also, there is actually a percentage button on the calculator.
Yeah, but that's just making everything more complicated, isn't it?
Well, it sort of is a shortcut, but you're never quite sure if you've got it right or wrong. Like if you don't know about the maths, then you think, well, I'm going to hit that button, but how do I know? But you can do 24 times 5 and then hit the percentage button if you want.
Okay.
Which is quite
Right, I get you.
Okay, so, yes, 24 times 5% is... That makes sense on a calculator, I think. I remember I
24 times 5%. So it is!
I know, I think we found that out when we did the maths on the wall, the video.
So, yeah. Times 9.65%. It works!
Yeah. I told that to one of our students once, and she found it life-changing.
Yeah.
In a good way, which made me happy because I like people's lives to change in a good way.
Yeah, goodness me.
Again, I'm going to
dread to think what her life was like before.
More difficult.
Yeah.
Especially while doing perfume maths, I'm going to put that pipette on a piece of nice shiny paper, and I'll attach it to the bottle later. Okay, so I now have Sisters SEV in there. Again, a bit of a squirt.
I'm going to use this time to drink from my water bottle, which makes a similar noise.
Okay. I'm so distracted now. Well, right. Yeah, you wouldn't want to drink this. It doesn't taste good.
But it feels great.
Yeah, so this is an ethanol bottle. But it's actually supposed to be for rinsing things out. But what's really good about it is it squirts nicely.
Accurate application.
Yes. Sometimes if I'm being very, very, very careful with it, I've got better at them because you can squirt a bit too hard and then realise you've gone over.
Yeah.
So, or also because of the pressure, sometimes it presses it down as you're squirting. It makes it look as if you've put enough in, and you find out that you haven't.
Interesting.
Bear in mind that if blowing on this makes it has an impression, imagine squirting on it. Also. Right. So I'm just giving it a little bit of a stir. And this, again, I'm writing down Sisters SEV, and I know who that comes from because only Albervier make the Sisters SEV, so I'm just going to write at 5%. So Sisters is like labdanum. It is effectively, this is an absolute.
Can we call this fragrance Sister's Sledge?
If you like. We're actually going to have a month called the Sisterhood for when we investigate all of the things from the plant. But Sisters is made from the twigs and leaves, and the labdanum's made from the resin from the same plant, though, so they have a lot in common. So that's why you thought. So we've got two things. That fell over. We might just pick another one that's already diluted. That we think we'll go with that. How about myrrh and gurgeon balsam at 10%? Do you want to smell that one?
Yes, I really do.
That's the right answer. Because otherwise, I mean, I think if somebody wants to know how that occurred, they can always rewind.
Yeah.
this one is also at 10%. So this morning, there you go, I was thinking to myself, so this one's a co-distillation of myrrh and gurgeon balsam, because gurgeon is very, 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 very long-lasting balsamic material from the gurgeon tree, and myrrh tends to come out solid as a rock. So if you co-distill them, yes, solid, yes, as a rock. They're probably friends with Sister Sledge.
Really smell that.
You know, after smelling the
Sisters,
yeah, at 100% strength, this is very faint. But it is there. But because gurgeon is such a low kind of reluctant to come off the stick base note, and also quite mild, it does tend to take a while.
Quick, someone get the coffee beans.
This morning we had some visitors in today, and I taught them don't bother with the coffee beans, just go out the front door and test them, and she was gobsmacked at how that actually works. What you need is fresh air.
This is, you really need fresh air, because, as you say, sniffing coffee beans is just a way to keep you in the shop.
It's just a way to keep you in the shop.
Doesn't do anything.
I think I also have here Fir Balsam Absolute at 5%. I'm thinking I might have that one, because I've got my plan, right? My plan is like to have these darker materials around the outside edge, but I haven't totally finalised which ones they are in my head. So, and the Fir Balsam is pretty spectacular. Actually, this is called Fir Leaf Absolute. It's got wrong. Oh, this is for you.
There you go.
I was considering vetiver.
Oh, wow.
I find this to be quite like if you took a bar of chocolate covered toffee into a pine woods for a hike, and then sat down in a pile of pine needles and decided to unwrap the chocolate covered toffee and eat.
It's melted a bit.
Yeah.
I don't get the chocolate covered toffee. What I get is dairy milk, fruit and nut.
Yeah.
There's some raisins in there.
I can smell that too. Yeah, the raisins. You know, you might come to mention it. So, do you think that would work as the green bit in the middle of our...
I think it's the only option, Sarah.
I think you're probably right, Arthur. Okay. In that case, I think we'll make a fragrance. And of course, we will write everything down. So, and that's what we're going to do, is we're going to make the centre, and then we're going to wrap it up with musks, as we were talking about last week, but we didn't do anything with them.
Apologise for the lighting on this. It's the clouds are.
It's
causing a lot of grief.
It's that time of year when it can't decide what to do. Isn't it? So I'm actually going to just make a very small amount, which is unlike me, but the person who was asking about this is just starting off, and when we get going, it's not really a very good idea to make vast amounts of huge demos. I mean,
because you can have a lot of wastage.
you can. And this is a 5ml bottle, so it will fit 4 grams. Are we going to call it Sister Sledge?
Sisters are doing it for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got as far as sisters are doing it.
Cystus removal surgery.
We know we're not going to call it that. The fruit and nut case, I'm not...
Fruit and nut?
Everyone's a fruit and nut case.
Oh, yeah.
You're old enough to remember.
That.
Yeah. Crazy for those Cadbury's nuts and
Yeah.
I can't remember the rest of the words.
Who sung the song "They're Coming to Take Me Away"?
haha, hee hee, ho ho.
Yeah.
I don't know. Okay, we'll have to Google that later. Yes. Right, okay, let's go. I would say that I would like to have, I think 70% of this ought to be the musk.
I agree.
And I think 30% of it ought to be at the centre. That said, we can fit 4 grams in. So we're going to have 2.8 grams of musk.
So 30% of it is going to be?
30% of it's going to be the central part of it. So that will be 1.2 grams will be the centre, and 2.8 grams will be the clouds.
Yeah.
So I'm going to make that. We're going to put in romandolide, and you need a lot more of that than you do of the Velvione, which I'm also going to put in. So I'm actually going to go. I'm going to go 2.4 grams of romandolide, which is at. Oh, that's at 20%. That's okay. I'll do 2 grams of romandolide at 20%.
2 grams is my favourite musk. Sorry, romandolide.
Romandolide, your favourite musk, yes. And then the Velvione, which is gorgeous, but you don't need a lot of it. And I'm gonna end up taking it down a little bit because the romandolide's at 20%. Don't actually need all that much, otherwise it'll take over. So I'm going to do 1.5 romandolide. I'm going to do 0.5 Velvione. So it's going to end up, when we do all the calculations, it'll come out at about 70% musk. So that's responsible for 2 grams of it. So my plan, and one can always, you just write it down. The patchouli is at 10%. I'm going to write that down. Patchouli light. We're also using the Cistus SEV at 5%, and I know that's quite dominant because I've used it before, and this is the thing about getting familiar with your materials. I know that will just sock it to us. And then the fir is actually Fir Leaf Absolute. And that's at 5%. So I've got 2 grams left. I'm going to go 0.4 of the Cistus SEV, 0.8 of the Fir Leaf because it's gorgeous, and that leaves 0.8 for the light patchouli. That's my plan. So.
Right.
That's, how did I know that? I don't know. I'm just going to try it and see what it smells like. Based on years of smelling these things and knowing what happens, or you can never quite know when you put something in a new combination, but you have a better idea than when you started out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I have just made the dilution. Should I be leaving it for a year? No. No, this is an experiment. That's 0.8, so I can tick that. Oh, and also, I always empty the pipette before I put it back in.
This is also a very valid point for those of you who don't know this, who use face oils.
Yeah.
And things that come in those kind of dropper bottles. Always empty the pipette.
Yeah. Press tear to reset it to 0. I've got the Cistus SEV here, so I'm going to put in 0.4. grams. And there we go. And tick. And then You know what I did? That wasn't... I put in the patchouli first. But that's fine.
Because it was the same
Because
amount.
it's exactly the same amount.
Phew.
I know, but honestly... Oh, it's a nice colour. Right, I think this is
gonna be a
Nick come up
knocking.
to tell
There
us
is, yeah.
that the Japanese people have arrived. Hello! They've
here.
arrived, yes.
Okay, great.
We will be minutes.
Yes.
Be as quick as possible.
Thank you. Yes. Yes. They've come all the way from Japan, you know. It's interesting. We're going to be testing out an AI perfume taste measurer.
Hmm?
You can. Ooh, that's nice. You can program it. Program this machine that they've got to. In sort of, you give it emotions, feelings, how you'd like to feel about your perfume, and then you program in your perfumes according to how you think they make people feel, and then it recommends perfumes for them, so you don't have to test them all first. It'll say try that one, that one, and that one. So
Wow.
that is what's going to happen next when we finish this.
Cool.
So, right, we have the Romandolide. I'm going to put in 1.5 grams at 20%. So, I'm showing how I do things. I'm not sure I'm showing
Pardon me.
how I decide what to do. I had an interesting conversation yesterday with Florian, our friend. It's about, if you work for a perfume company, one of the big ones, the likelihood of one of your perfumes, it's 1.5, take, making it to the shop floor is extraordinarily low. If your perfume is chosen, tick, write everything down, then great, it goes into thousands of shops. But the likelihood of it ever being chosen to be made at all is extraordinarily low. Whereas I was kind of feeling a bit sorry for myself that some of my perfumes, there's only ever 100 bottles made. I'm thinking, I've put all that effort in, and who's going to smell it? No, hardly anybody. But then I thought to myself, well, maybe 100 people smelling that, and people who buy it, get samples, they only buy it if they really want it, and then it's out there. Maybe that's actually better in some ways than having 98% of all your fragrances never, ever, ever smelling
A day in their
clouds of
life.
day. Yes, whatever's seeing the
Yeah,
light of
well, they
days
sort
in
of.
perfume.
I mean, and also a lot of perfumers do everything on the computer. Before they've even smelt anything, they will do a formula on the computer.
This is true. Once
And
we get programmed in, and
So often, it'll be just the same as a writer. It's like it literally just gets stored on a hard drive somewhere, and it'll never be anything more than that.
they tend, when they're planned on the computer, they still tend
To make them.
a tiny batch will then be
Yeah.
made and evaluated, but that might be all that ever happens. So I ended up not feeling too bad about the fact that only
Yeah.
23 bottles of whatever else that gets made. The SUV is winning.
Yeah. So
This
it's. I think this needs time, because the Sisters is overwhelming.
So we're going to leave it till next week, see what it smells like. Oh, Marina Bathinilia's here as well. Everybody's turned up way early, Arthur. They're supposed to be here at 4.
Yeah.
Anyway, never mind. That's good, because it means that we actually... 0. We've done it. We've demonstrated how we do it. We've also demonstrated...
Would you
We
know
need to
what?
do another one.
Now it's calming down.
I know,
it's starting
isn't
to.
it just?
It's starting to come through.
I'm going to put it on.
Oh, let me.
Okay. Let me. You can put some on.
Thank you.
And that's safe. So, what we should have done, of course, is smell it without the musks, because that would have been in
Yeah.
your face. Right. Anyway, it looks like that. I'm going to write its label, because one must always write everything down. And it's called, at the moment it is called Sisters Sledge. Black book. So that's where I know how to find it. And the date, which is the
30th.
30th. To the end of the summer. 38, 23. So then I will never lose the formula. Oh, well, I should never say that. I'll try never. Oh, this is written down. It's written down.
Great.
Thank you.
Hopefully that helps. I think it helps.
I think so.
That's how to start.
I think so. It portrays not only that I don't really know how to explain how I decide what I do. But part of that is just...
But that's the artistry.
It's the familiarity with the materials, and it's just like...
That's the creativity. That's why you go to one perfumer instead of another one.
Yep. Yep.
It's taste.
Oh, we went into the Battersea Power Station, Le Labo, and the woman recognised me. She follows me on Instagram.
Really?
So, yeah, so they sell their 15 mils for 115 quid. But she recognised me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you know what? They're expensive, but I do rate them.
Oh yeah.
Adios, amigos.